Hello, everybody. I'm Connie Stewart with SimplySimpleStamping.com, and today have I got a video for you. We're going to create 8 cards. Oh my goodness, we're going to create 8 cards in a flash. You're not going to believe how easy and fun these cards are to make. We're going to create our own designer series paper to create today's cards. And you're going to love how fast and easy they are to go together with just some very simple cutting. Are you ready to learn how? All right, let's get started with our video today. Cards, you're going to love this. Guys, this is all the supplies we need for 8 cards. Are you ready? Here's what you're going to need. We're going to start with a piece of basic white, 8.5 by 11. Now let's bring in some card bases. I have 4 card bases in basic white thick. These are 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. And then I have 4 basic white thick card bases. These are cut 4 1/4 by 11 and scored at 5.5. So those are the bases for my 8 cards. You're going to choose 4 colors to stamp with, and then you're going to need 4 pieces of cardstock in those colors. These are all the same size, 4 1/4 by 5.5. And then, of course, the matching ink pads to those colors. My stamp set today is the Pretty Perennial stamp set. This is a brand new one from our January through June 2021 catalog. I love this one. I love all the flowers. But I got to tell you, I think it's that great big word happy that I love the most. Now, this stamp set is also available as a bundle. So you can also purchase the dies. I'm going to use the dies today, and I'm really actually going to use 1 die. But I wanted you to know that you can create these cards whether you use the dies or not. You're still going to love them. But I thought for fun, I want to go ahead and die cut some flowers with that one little flower. Okay, it's time to get stamping. Here we go. We are going to be stamping all over this piece of white cardstock. So I've got my big grid paper. I needed my big grid paper today. So here are my 4 colors. I'm actually going to start with my lightest color. I like to kind of start with my lightest and work my way up. So a little Daffodil Delight today. We're going to take that great big flower and we are just going to randomly stamp all over the big piece of basic white. Now we're going to be filling in a lot, so I'm not too worried about getting these too close together because we've got a lot of flowers to put on here. You notice I'm getting the edges too. I want to make sure I get everything. That is good. I'm going to bring in my chamois so I can clean my stamp. You do want to make sure you clean your stamp in between each color. My next lightest color is the Coastal Cabana. And just like you saw me do, we're going to use this exact same stamp. And I'm going to bring these just a little closer. When I stamp these, I want them to be kind of close to the Daffodil Delight. And if you'll just hang with me, I'm going to fill in with the Coastal Cabana. I'm now going to come in with the Magenta Madness. And I think you've guessed it. We're going to come back in with that same flower. And now we're just going to kind of fill in. So we'll just bring these stamped in. Isn't that color just gorgeous? I love this color combination. So we're just going to kind of fill in anywhere that we need that magenta. Now here's what usually happens when I try to randomly stamp. I have what I like to call some bold spots. So I'm going to come in now with Gorgeous Grape. And I'm going to fill in with this smaller flower. And this one, you might be putting 2 or 3 next to each other, and that's okay. We're just going to fill in any place that needs that little burst of color. Oh, this is going to be so gorgeous. If you're a scrapbooker, I think you can already see how beautiful this could be in creating your own scrapbook paper. I'm now going to come in with my Memento Black. And in this stamp set is a great set of, I don't know what these are called, the little stamen, I guess, that are inside the flowers. And you see how that black really gives a nice pop? And this is for all the large flowers. So I'm going to do that. And then on these smaller flowers, there's a little smaller one. So you're going to take just a couple minutes here to come in and we're going to fill in all of those flowers. All right, it's all filled in. You notice I then came in any other little spots, I went ahead and added those little dots. It just kind of fills everything in. Now I have a very bright, beautiful piece of stamped cardstock. Now let's create some flashcards with our stamped cardstock. Here we go. I'm going to bring in my paper trimmer, and the first cut I want to make is 5 3/8. So that's just one little hair there past the 5 1/4 inch mark. Make sure I get that right. You know, the old measure twice, cut once. Yes, I still use that to this day. So there is 8 1/2 by 5 3/8. And now I'm going to cut each one of these down to 2 inches. So these will be 2 and 5 3/8 of an inch. You are going to have a little bit left over, and I just want you to be aware of that. All right, now our remaining piece, we want to cut this down to 5 inches by 8 1/2. So we're going to take some off of there. You're going to cut this down to 2 1/2 inches. So this is the 5 inch here. So we're going to go 8 1/2 by 2 1/2. And now we're going to cut these down to 4 inches. So 4, and you're going to want to take a little bit more off of this one because it is a little more than 4 inches. So again, there's scrap. And our last one here, 4 inches. Remember, those are 4 inches by 2 1/2 inches. All right, the pieces for our flashcards are done. Now let's bring in the colored cardstock. So these, remember, they are 4 1/4 by 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I've got the 4 1/4 inch piece up at the top, or the side, not the piece. And we're going to cut that down to 2 1/8 by 5 1/2. So those are equal pieces, 2 1/8 by 5 1/2. We're going to do that to 2 of these. And you can pick whichever color you want. It does not matter. So we've got 2 of those. Our remaining 2 pieces, let's turn it around this way. That's the 5 1/2 inch side. And we're going to cut those in half to, that will be 2 3/4 by 4 1/4. So I'm cutting these in half at 2 3/4. So now I have my base pieces, and we're going to do a little more stamping. So I'm going to do this in Gorgeous Grape. Now, at the beginning of the video, I did tell you that using the dies was going to be optional. This is where it's optional. If you're not using the dies, you're going to skip this step. All right. I'm going to stamp 3 flowers here. Keep them there in the center because we're going to be die cutting. And then, of course, we'll add our little centers. And we're going to repeat this. So the other piece that I had cut, the 2 1/8 by 5 1/2, is my coastal cabana. And you're just going to repeat that stamping there. On my remaining pieces, I'm not going to be able to fit them 3 across. So I'm going to take them like that. All right. So you're going to repeat that here. On the other Daffodil Delight. And of course, I'm going to repeat the same thing there on my Marvelous, or my Magenta Madness. All right, all those flowers are stamped. So you can now come in with that die, and you're going to die cut all these flowers. Is it going to take a few minutes? Yeah, it is. And remember what I said, it is optional, but I love the look of adding these popped images, these pop flowers on my cards. And anyway, but you're not going to see any of this. Once we adhere our stamped cardstock right on top, you see, you're not going to see any of that. I'm now going to cover that up. So I'm going to adhere my stamped cardstock onto each of those. All right, so you should be at this point where we have all of our stamped cardstock adhered to the pieces of cardstock that we cut down. Remember, those are the ones that we die cut our flowers from behind. So you should also have 6 of each flower. Yeah. I broke these into collections of 3. And you see, I had enough colors to just mix and match everything. So now these are going to go perfectly with my card bases. Remember this. And what I'm going to do is see how this is magenta. Let's pick a color collection like this that doesn't have a magenta in it. I'm going to stack these together. So I've adhered my cardstock down here at the bottom, and now I'm just going to stamp happy, and I'll do that in the tuxedo black. And now I'm going to match the color of that cardstock. And for this card, I'm going to say happy mail. Now, remember those flowers that we had? Remember, they were in different colors. I can now decide where I want those to go on my card. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put adhesive on 2 flowers. And let's see where we want those to go. How about here, here, and then my last one, I'm going to use a Stampin' Dimensional and give that a little pop. There we go. Happy Nail. Then this one is in the opposite. This is with the magenta, and I said, happy birthday. Let's create a couple more. Now for these 2 cards, I reversed it and I put my stamped cardstock up at the top. So you can do it this way or this way. It's totally up to you. All right, those are the 4¼ by 11". Let's do our remaining 2 cards, 4 cards. All right, so you can see on these cards, I just flip-flopped again, stamped my happy, added my flowers. Let's get our last 2 cards so we can see them all finished. And there we go. I just finished the last 2 cards. These are so much fun. Let me bring all the cards in again. And there you go, my friends. We created 8 cards. We used minimal supplies because we didn't have to use a lot to create those. And I love that we used the backs of each of those colored pieces of cardstock to create our matching flowers. I love that. Remember what I said, you can still create the cards without these. You might just want to stamp the flowers. Maybe the one that you want to pop, you might try fussy cutting that one if you don't have the dies. But talk about a great collection of cards. You are ready to send some happy mail for many different occasions. I hope that you enjoyed the cards today, everybody. Now, if you're ready to get to stamping and you'd like to get your hands on some of the products that I used, here's what you can do. Head over to simplysimplestamping.com or look down in the YouTube description and you'll find a direct link and you'll find a supply list with everything that I used on my cards today. And you'll find the measurements, you'll find photos, everything you need so you can get to creating today's cards as well. Hey, if you enjoyed today's video, would you give me a thumbs up on YouTube? I always appreciate that. And as always, if you have not subscribed, take a minute to click that great big red subscribe button. YouTube will let you know whenever I'm back with a new video. Thank you everyone for being here. Make it a fantastic day, and I look forward to stamping with you soon. Bye-bye.